Hello, my name is Jessica Vasello, and this is my artistic process video for my future self artwork. In this video, I'm going to explain to you how I use the studio habits of mine during my creation process. You'll see documentary photos from my creation process, as well as hear audio of me describing it. I hope you have so much fun watching my artistic process video, and I hope you like it. This photo shows a list of how we started the artwork by coming up with 10 things we wanted for our future. This displays the studio habit of mind express because it expresses a whole lot of things about me personally and my personal self. After creating the list, we had to come up with symbols that represented the things that we wanted for our future that we wrote on that list. The studio habit of mind that I had to use here was envision. I had to figure out how to take words and turn them into images. I think I came up with a great set of images to represent the things that I want for my future. After drawing the sketches of the things we wanted for our future on the back, we selected 5 of them that we were going to draw on the front for our final copy artwork. Here you can see me drawing a graduation cap, representing that I want to get my master's degree. However, I really had to use the studio habit of mind, engage and persist when drawing this. I drew this graduation cap a ton of times. I wasn't getting the lines and shape of the cap quite right. So I erased and edited and engaged and persisted until I got it right, at least how I wanted it to be. Here you can see me drawing some of the final copy images. You may notice that I draw a little bit and then step back and observe it. That's me representing the studio habit of mind, observe. I draw a little bit and then take a moment to observe what I've done and before I go in and fix and edit it. This, in particular, is a picture that represents that I want to have children someday, and I really like that I chose to express that by using children's toys instead of drawing a picture of a child themselves. Here you can see the finished picture that represents having a family one day, and in this next picture you see how I've edited the graduation cap. This leads into my favorite drawing that I did, or my favorite visual representation of something I want for my future, and that is the picture of the national park logo with the map and the plane. I think that this visual really helped me to combine a couple things, that I love to travel and that I want to visit all the national parks. And I think I like it so much because it has a lot of layers to it. Like, I layered up the pictures. The map is kind of behind the plane, and the plane is behind the logo. Visual representation shows the studio habit of mind, develop craft, because even though I know how to draw these images individually, I'm good at drawing them. I worked on that drawing skill and figured out a way to draw them in a more interesting way. I developed my drawing skills. After I finished drawing, I started watercolor painting, and I started with the background. I chose a pretty light color so that it didn't distract from my objects when I just started to paint them. When painting my objects, one thing that kind of went wrong and I learned from pretty quickly was that the colors are going to bleed together if I paint 2 wet colors next to each other. So I tried to jump around the painting, giving things time to dry. So I painted a little bit on the hat and then came back to the hat and painted the tassel later. And I painted a little bit on my pottery studio image and then came back to it later after painting something else somewhere on the artwork. So that's something that I learned, that you might need to jump around the painting in order to avoid painting wet paint next to wet paint, because when you do, it bleeds together. A technique that I really liked using in the watercolor painting was a wet on wet technique. So you can see it in the sky on the National Park logo and in the vases in the pottery studio. I just painted down wet water and then on top of it kind of dabbed on the color in order to get a unique texture. I worked on developing my watercolor craft. Here's a photo of my finished artwork. If I were to reflect on this, I say that I learned a lot during the creation process and really pushed myself as an artist. I hope you enjoyed hearing about my creation process and how I use the studio habits of mine during creating. Thanks for watching!